Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing.
And welcome, everybody, to Morning Magazine for this September 16th, 2020. Your host, James J. Malouf here. In part two today, we're going to talk to our friends at the Sunrise Rotary. We have Nancy Mishnick in with us and Dean Veneman. And that name is going to sound familiar because Dean is also joining us right now, Alderperson from District 2 of Wisconsin Rapids. Good morning to you, Dean.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And, of course, we have Mayor Shane Blaser joining us today. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
And don't want to forget our good friends over at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, Kev over there. Thanks, appreciation to them. And I want to start off by saying congratulations to you guys at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media on the awards and everything. I saw that. That was really cool. Be sure to follow them online, everybody. So, Mayor, thank you very much for joining us. Just to kick things off, how are you and yours doing?
I am well, thank you. And you?
Doing good, doing good. Excellent. I have to tell you right out the gate, I love the beard. I don't know what the, what your constituents are saying or anything like that, how the voting's going, but I love the beard. I think it looks great. Yeah. Good to hear, though.
Yeah, I usually grow up pretty large beard, but my family and friends don't always appreciate it. But in this role, I probably shouldn't take on that mask this year.
Yeah, I think it works for you. Dean, how are your and yours doing?
Good. I'm great. I'm looking interesting time to get involved in city politics for sure. But yeah. It's a great experience and love Wisconsin Rapids. So
we appreciate the work you're doing.
Just got a brand new hip, so
that makes it a lot more interesting.
So it's been an interesting way, but I'm getting around pretty well. So
good.
Thanks.
Good, and I'm glad to hear it's going well. That's good. I know that is not easy. That is a rough one right there.
Yeah, it's amazing what they can do, though.
Yeah, it really is. When we, those our age and everything, we know like the Bo Jackson thing, and to think nowadays if Bo Jackson had that same injury, he'd come back. It's just interesting what they've been able to do. Mm-hmm. But we're not in the medical part of the show here right now. We are in politics, so we're going to talk that. I wanted to start off, Mayor, just asking how the youth council was going, and if that you had that all filled up yet or not.
So we're currently taking applications.
Okay.
I know they've been announcing it at different schools. Mm-hmm. And we have a link on our website to the application and that information. So we're still taking applications.
Great. I think that it is a fantastic opportunity for young people to not only get a chance to get their foot in the water and experience a little bit of the political world and understand a little bit of what's going on behind the curtains. The biggest thing that I have felt, and I've talked to a lot of listeners about this, we have such good representatives in this area politically. We have people, whether it is Krug, Teston, even going up to Point and Nancy Vandermeer and Katrina Shanklin. We have really good people in these positions. We have a great bunch of other people also, whether it was the mayor before you, the mayor before him, and yourself, that these kids can learn from, where they can learn how to kind of handle politics like adults, to be blunt about it.
Yeah, and it also gives them an avenue to put their input into it.
Yeah.
So because we're always talking about there's nothing to do for kids around here, and you continuously hear that. Well, this is an avenue that they can at least make their points heard.
I think that that's such a good point to make too, because it's something that not only the kids but every age group basically wants to be heard. That's all they ask. And some are heard more than others and everything, but especially the youth often feels like they're not heard. That's a great point to make, that here's an opportunity for them to kind of be heard. And that always is going to make them feel more empowered and everything and want to get more involved in their community. Because whether you like politics or not, it ain't going anywhere. It's not going to change anytime soon or anything like that. So you're better off, I feel like, working the system, make it work for you. Remembering that we vote people in, that the people have the power, and you vote in who you want to represent you in that, and getting back to kind of what this is supposed to be. But it's a really cool idea, and I'm glad to hear that you guys are keeping it going.
Yeah, I think it would be nice if everybody took their turn on city council and kind of got to experience, spend 2 years and experience that experience and really understand, the decisions that are put before them and the budgetary issues, and I think it would be a good life lesson for all of us.
I think it's an incredibly good point. I couldn't agree more. And not only will give you an opportunity to, there's a lot of people that like to play Monday morning quarterback when it comes to politics. Say, I would do this, I would do that. Well, let's see what you would do. Let's see how you would handle the different things that you have to do when you're on a board or something like that. And And I think of it a little bit like when you get called for jury duty. Like I know the joke is kind of jury duty and everything. I think jury duty, there's an important part of that of understanding the legal process and understanding the behind the scenes of some of that.
Yeah, locally, a lot of those decisions, are affecting us. It's affecting our quality of life. It's affecting us financially. And so I think sometimes they're tough. A lot of times they can be tough because of one of those two reasons. But it's an important process.
We have a couple of things on the list today to talk about. One of them I wanted to get to was the special assessments.
Yeah, and ironically, Dean's here, but it's been a topic that he's been dealing with quite a bit because of an upcoming project in the next couple of years on the west side in his district that they all received a special assessment, and we both received phone calls, and Dean's kind of firsthand experience on special assessments.
Yeah, can we first, before we dive too much into it, like for those that may not understand what we mean by that, by special assessments, kind of explain what that is?
Sure.
You want me to?
Sure.
Well, basically, a special assessment is set up where the area that benefits from the project is basically the one that pays for it, rather than shared across the entire city. And so it's a touchy subject, as it's decided by the city council, we're going to do this project, whereas some people may not be excited about it, and all of a sudden they have a bill that they weren't prepared for. And especially in times like right now with the potential problems we're having with the mill, et cetera, and COVID-19, and there's a group of people in my district in the 18th Avenue area that were pretty shocked at some of the price of the special assessments. So they've been doing a lot of community activism and calling and writing little petitions. How can we get on the agendas, things like that. So one of the things the staff has done is we've done a special assessment study to find alternative ways to pay for projects rather than special assessments. And so we're trying to get that out in front of the community. Thanks for help with that as well. And we'll be putting it on the media website and things of that nature.
Yeah, so a lot of these projects that are, when we do a project, we try to do a project where all the infrastructure underneath the road needs to be done, whether it be sewer, water, storm sewer, and street surfacing. So we'll do all those, and then when let's see, stormwater, taxpayers, special assessment, water and light, they all contribute to that project. And so, but the big portion comes on the special assessment side to the homeowner, and it can be anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000, and that's a lot of money. Even if you spread it out over 10, 15 years, it's still a large amount of money. So, thanks to city staff and by the council's request, they put together that survey, and so we have some alternatives that we're looking at. And like Dean said, we're going to get it on the website. We're going to try to get it out to the public as much as possible, and then kind of do a survey, see where they're feeling. Whether there's talks about a wheel tax. Some communities have wheel tax, or a combination of wheel tax, special assessments. I prefer, and we can see what the public prefers, but I prefer like a street utility where we all put it like we do on stormwater, where it's just we all pay a little bit every quarter, and it goes into a pot that would pay for that special assessment. And I think it's a lot easier for us to swallow versus getting that $7,000, $10,000 bill.
What you mentioned the wheel tax, I think you called it. What is that exactly?
So basically, when you go to register your vehicle, you could pay an extra whatever the community decides. I think average has been like $20, and so you pay an extra $20 on your vehicle registration. And then that money the state sends back to the communities. It's a tough one, because only certain vehicles are wheel taxed, and I don't think it's equitable. And I think through doing a street utility, it's more equitable because it's across the board. We all pay the same amount, and because eventually most roads in the community are going to get special assessed, or they're going to get redone. And so at least this way, it's not, we're all burdening the cost of this.
And I think that's the fairest way. It sounds like certainly. And this is stuff that's going to need to be done. These are there's not a rural area in America that doesn't have road work that needs to be done. We all are experiencing some version of this.
Yeah, and talking to our engineering department, I believe they use the amount that we do about a mile of road a year, and we have roughly 180 miles of road. So the ability to keep up with that is not sustainable, because our roads are not going to last 180 years.
Yeah.
With a really long shelf life is 40 years.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
so at 180,
Yeah.
so basically it's got to come from somewhere. So.
And that's not you're looking. You're in a position where you have to decide. Okay, we have to do that. Where does that come from? And that's where it. Oftentimes we see the decision just being made. Here, you guys are bringing it to the community. You guys are looking for the best way, at least the community's input. You're not, certainly not asking them to vote on the final solution,
Right.
but you want their input on it.
Yeah, I think that's important, because ultimately it's going to affect us all.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've appreciated since you've gotten into the position is I like that it doesn't feel like you are doing this job. It almost feels like you're doing this job like whether you get reelected or not is not an issue to you.
It isn't.
And I appreciate that a lot. You're here to do something. You have a job. You have a list of things that you want to do. And really, getting reelected is here or there.
Absolutely, and I think that's at least how I'm approaching it. And it's important to me to be inclusive, to do these surveys, and I think, and Dean can even agree, I would hope that, we're a conduit between the public and city staff, and hoping to try to, bridge that gap there. And sometimes I think in politics that can get lost.
Yeah, incredibly. And I'm so thankful that you guys care about that kind of thing. That we have so many people, again, getting back to what I was talking about kids learning how to do this right. That's one of the right ways to do it. You're nothing without your people.
Right.
And like we've talked about many times before, not just with you guys, but with the sheriff's department and other representatives, you guys are in this community as well. It affects you guys as just as much as all of us.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, it's actually been pretty interesting for me just a few months into this politics for the first time in my life, coming from small business. And now I notice, of course, my significant other points it out to me when I'm driving down the street, but I notice when there's 6 cars in the front yard. I used to notice it, but I never thought, well, we should be doing something about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we should be punishing people. We should be reaching out to them and asking them for another solution as to where to put their cars, whether they're going to bring their garbage in on the day they put it out, that type of thing. But these are all things that, going back to what you were talking about with the youth council, getting involved in this gives me a whole new vision of seeing the community. I've always thought it's a beautiful community, walk by the river, but then when I go on a street, it's all needs street work, and some of the yards are not kept up and things of that nature. It's a whole different aspect now. So reaching out to people and talking about it. I've actually, a couple times I've just knocked on people's doors and said, look, at some point you're going to probably have to bring that in, or I'm not necessarily going to report or that type of thing, but let's just reach out and find a different solution as to where to keep that broken down vehicle, things of that nature.
I don't know if you can ask for more than that, because it is usually government's quickest thing is to fine you, and because everybody responds to money being taken away, and no matter how high up you are, whether you're an owner in an NFL team or if you are a community member in Wisconsin Rapids, you are affected when you notice when money is taken away from you. The idea of actually giving people an opportunity to do something about it, and just asking the simple question, Dean, I think that goes so far that just asking, what can we do to help, or why is this situation this way? Most people don't want to live a certain way. They are just in that situation, and maybe they can't, in this situation with the vehicles up front or something, maybe they can't afford to have them towed away, or whatever the case may be. Things are oftentimes out of our hands. There is that, and then there's sometimes people that are just lazy. So figuring out the difference between these two and then deciding from there where to go with it is such a better way a better process, I would think, and a more effective one too. It seems like, because we get enough pushback on things in life. When you're just asking a question, there's not a lot of pushback.
Yeah, I'd prefer to see, whether it be our law enforcement or inspectors in the community, I think the first step is to educate, and then I don't think we need to go to a citation always at first, because if I don't know, I don't know. And so, at that point, I think there's the education, and then if I continue to do it and I'm blatantly do it, then maybe education through a citation may be the effective route.
Yeah, I think listening goes so far, and educating is the other part of that. They go hand in hand. And again, they are things that are sorely missing in a lot of areas. We're lucky we have that here. I wanted to touch on trick-or-treating as well.
Yeah, that seems to be the latest issue I seem to hear, and I don't know.
Before we dive into it, did you think when you took this job that trick-or-treating was going to be this hot of a topic? I mean, really, of all the things you've got to worry about and deal with, I wouldn't have thought that on my well, boy, I'm not looking forward to Halloween. I'm like,
right, exactly. It's going to be a big decision, but
they get to wear a mask at least.
Yeah.
Right.
See, that's what I personally believe, that if you don't want to participate, you can leave your house light off. If you don't want to participate in the trick-or-treating process, you can just stay home and leave your light off. And like Dean just said, they're all wearing masks anyway. So,
when this all hit, I thought that of all the things that wouldn't be canceled, trick-or-treating would be the one thing we'd be okay with because everybody's already got a mask on.
And
Exactly.
baseball too, because that's the ultimate social distancing game. So
Right, yeah. There's a couple of things that are kind of like geared up for this already where we're okay. And not to take it lightly by any means.
No,
but
absolutely
I think that whenever we've talked about this subject, you have to take every area in its own way. If we're in New York City right now, we're not joking about this. We're not taking any of it lightly. Not that we are again.
Even Southern Wisconsin.
Yes, exactly.
Madison.
Madison, yes. If we're in a different area, we handle it. We look at this a little differently and everything. But we are able to. You got to handle it a certain way here that you can't handle it the same way there as you do here. Clearly,
Exactly.
Well, which is another reason to point out how important local politics is. When we start thinking about complete solutions for the entire state, it's completely different in Wisconsin Rapids than it is in Milwaukee.
Absolutely.
And that's why people don't realize how important local politics is. And we have decisions that are completely different than, like I say, Madison.
Well, and I think that it's even that much more, and I think in every community, Madison or here, the politicians, representatives should be doing what you guys do and interacting with the community, asking their feedback. But especially the more rural you get, the more important it is, because these are your neighbors. These are people you see almost every day, if not every time you go to the store or something like that. So taking their feedback is really what the community is feeling, oftentimes. It's not certainly everything, but it is a big part of it. So when it comes to this, has there been any final decisions made yet as far as trick-or-treating go, or is this a little bit of what you were touching on there?
Yeah, so apparently in October it's going to be on a city council meeting, but I have no plans to do anything under my emergency powers. I'd like to see it continue for the kids, and I told somebody I have no, I might have some potential control over trick-or-treating, but I have no control over the weather. So it is what it is.
This is again another thing that I appreciate about you being in the position, because I feel like you treat the position the way that all presidents should treat their position. The president politically doesn't have that much power. They're a representative. They're supposed to represent our country and all these other things and stuff. You don't try to push anything other than what you are hired to do.
Yeah, I think that and all of us, and maybe at a different scale with the aldermen, but we all have an interest in the community. I don't seek any personal gain, and there's definitely no personal gain in it. But yeah, you want to try to put the best foot forward for the community, and for me, I have different thoughts, and we all do, and so we just have to try to come to some common ground and go forward from there. And as speaking of different thoughts, we're just starting the budget process, and that's going to be quite a process, and looking forward to Dean getting thrown into this process, and there's tough choices to be made, but this next year we have to be conservative in our spending and responsible, and we have some new things that we need to maintain, and that has to be a priority, and we can't afford higher taxes and those type of things that potentially could be.
Well, there's not a whole lot of connections between radio and politics, but a couple of the connections I see is you don't do it to be popular, and you don't do it for the money.
No,
you don't do either of them for that. So that's for sure. When it comes to approaching the budget, are there things that you certainly have you have to take time to look into this more and everything, but are there things that you're already right now looking at, like this is going to have to be different?
So for me right now, it's our department heads have finished compiling their individual department budgets, and next week myself and our finance director will be meeting with those departments to kind of go through them, see if there's anything that might be of concern or a new expense, and then kind of once that's refined, then we'll compile it into a full, complete budget and kind of see if we did well or not, and if we have to make more cuts and go from there. And that's where we get the council involved, and because it's really about the priorities of the community, and who better to know than the council and their districts they represent. So then we'll have to look at those priorities and decide, which way we go.
And you kind of count on the council in a lot of ways for that feedback, it seems like.
I plan on it, absolutely.
And as far as the council goes, Dean, and not for you to speak for everybody, certainly, but just speaking from the council, that's something where that's why it's so vital to get that feedback from the community when it comes to these topics.
Well, yeah, it's always been my thought, and especially in a local level, complete representative democracy, if you will. Even if there's a issue out there that I don't necessarily agree with, but if my district overwhelmingly does, I'm going to vote for it.
Right.
I might be the 10% of the district that's opposed to that item, but they didn't elect me for my choice. They elected me for theirs. So I try to get feedback. And when people are calling me about, when we talked about the special assessments, that's the first thing. I got more calls on special assessments when I got there than I did on the pool. So
Me too.
Yeah.
And so basically, because there was a big project in my district, and so that was my priority, because that's what my district is involved in. And that's kind of the way. And so I know that there's a lot of people that in my district that relied on Verso for income. So I know that that's going to be a big priority when we talk about budgets. So I have to keep that in mind at all points.
Again, that's what we ask for out of our people representing us, is to listen. And we're not voting. I don't think anybody gets voted in necessarily for what their beliefs are. It's about what you can represent of everybody's belief and how well you can do that. Being a representative, that where the term comes from, really. It's written right there for you. So we don't see it enough, though. It's rare nowadays. So I appreciate that out of you, Dean. I appreciate that out of everybody a part of the board, and especially you and your staff, Mayor, because we need more of that. It's really good to hear. We have a couple minutes left. Was there anything you wanted to touch on that we get a chance to?
The Aquatic Center, everybody sees that it's been closed. They're finishing closing down, and we're looking at. We have an internal group where we're reviewing, the past season, what we can do better, what we can work on, some changes we'd like to make. So we're kind of starting to get into that process. So we're ready to go next year.
Right on. Yeah. When it comes to any of the things that we've talked about today, if people, they have feedback they want to give you or anything like that, I know that you're always open to hearing it. How can they reach out to you?
You can call my office at 715-421-8202, or you can email us or stop on up.
Again, cannot thank you both enough for the time. Dean, I'm glad you're sitting down because you got still more work to do. We got another half an hour with you here. But we do appreciate you sitting in with us today.
I appreciate it.
And Mayor, always a good time talking with you.
Good seeing you too, James.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks,
again, a big thank you to Mayor Shane Blaser for joining us, and Alderperson Dean Veneman. And we also want to thank our friend Kev from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media and all the gang over there for everything they do. Good work, as always. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will have our friends from the Sunrise Rotary Club joining us here on Morning Magazine, AM 1320, WFHR.